A human soldier went up for auction, and the bidding hit stellar record levels. Jason Hale's awareness flickered back, the taste of blood sharp and coppery on his tongue, his cheek pressed to cold, unyielding alloy. His head throbbed with a pulse out of sync with his heartbeat. Fragments of memory drifted through his mind, a blinding flare cutting through night during a mission in Eastern Europe, the sudden metallic tang of ozone, then darkness. Now, above the pounding ache, he heard voices. One, high and lilting, its syllables fluid and strange, murmured close by. Neural activity stabilizing, the specimen returns. Jason forced his eyelids to remain almost closed, feigning deeper unconsciousness. Through slitted lashes, he glimpsed surroundings that defied logic, walls arching in impossible organic curves, shifting with iridescent lights that pulsed like living veins. Machines crowded the space, crystalline and metallic, emitting soft whirs and clicks. He tried to move, but his limbs barely twitched. The bite of restraint dug into wrists and ankles, thick metallic bands that pinned him to a glassy table. "Increase tranquilizer by 0.3, another voice ordered, this one clipped and analytical. "The human's physiology nullifies our standard sedatives." A cold pressure hissed near Jason's neck. He tensed, lungs burning, heart hammering. The sedative barely dulled the rush of adrenaline. Summoning every ounce of strength, Jason jolted upright, straining against the restraints. Two figures stood over him. The first was spindly and insectoid, its frame gleaming black with blade-like limbs and multifaceted crimson eyes, a chitinous carapace patterned in geometric lines. The second, taller, possessed emerald skin that glimmered in the ambient light, four slender arms working a glowing console with impossible dexterity. A sweep of gold filaments crowned its elongated skull. The green being regarded him with cool interest. "Exceptional recovery speed," the emerald-skinned one remarked. "Just as the supplier promised." Jason's voice rasped, dry but forceful. "Name and rank: Jason Hale, NATO Special Operations. Where am I? Under what authority are you holding me?" The green being, Zir, according to the name stitched in alien glyphs on its chest, dismissed him with a casual wave. "Your planet is unregistered. You have no rights under interstellar law." The words were perfectly enunciated, yet carried the weight of indifference. Zir didn't even look up from the console. The insectoid shifted closer, blade arms ticking in a staccato rhythm. "Begin evaluation, Zir. Time is credit." A blue light swept down Jason's body. He clenched his jaw, feeling the scan tingle across nerves and bones. Zir's hands danced over controls, reading out a clinical litany. Musculature, above baseline. Neural activity, elevated. Reflex index, high. Species identification, Homo sapiens. Designation, male, unmodified. Jason craned his neck, catching glimpses beyond the scanning field. Across the chamber, transparent partitions held other prisoners, some with features not far from human, others twisted into forms he could barely comprehend. Many stared back with hollow eyes, some resigned, others simmering with fear or defiance. The insectoid's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Your species is rare in the market," it said, voice crackling with anticipation. The supplier was well compensated. Suddenly the ship trembled, a deep thrumming reverberating through the floor. Lights flickered as the drive shifted with a bone-jarring lurch, casting the world in strobes of ultraviolet and green. Zir's scan concluded, and vents released a sweet, cloying vapor that pressed against Jason's senses like velvet. His vision blurred, constellations unfamiliar and wild wheeling overhead in his mind's eye. Darkness pressed in, irresistible. He came to groggy, his thoughts thick as syrup. Armored reptilian guards herded him forward, their scaled bodies gleaming beneath segmented black exosuits. They barked guttural commands, the ends of their shock rods sparking with cold blue arcs. "Move! Lot 8142! one snarled, jabbing him between the shoulders. Jason stumbled, forced to keep pace along the corridor of blinding silver. Doors irised open before him, revealing a vast dome of alien splendor. The auction hall yawned, cavernous, echoing, with platforms and crystalline cages rising like jagged islands from a mirrored floor. Tiers of spectators filled the darkness above, faces aglow in shifting hues, furred, feathered, armored, scaled, all gazing down with predatory interest. A squat attendant approached, eyes black and depthless. With a practiced motion, it clamped a neural collar around Jason's neck. The device pulsed, and a sudden clarity overtook his mind, the babble of alien tongues crystallizing into meaning. He was marched to the dais, lights trained on him with clinical indifference. The auctioneer's voice, metallic and booming, echoed through the dome. Lot 8142, genuine human male, origin, Terra, unmodified, rarity grade, exceptional. Alien eyes fixed upon him, some curious, some cold and appraising, others hungrily acquisitive. Among them, one figure drew his gaze, a blue-skinned woman, her skin the deep hue of twilight, hair shock-white and cascading over her shoulders. Her golden eyes regarded him, unwavering, her athletic frame radiating a subtle strength. She stood among the bidders, three-fingered hands folded neatly at her waist, her presence at once serene and commanding. Bidding commenced, the language of numbers and credits spinning out in overlapping harmonics. The blue woman watched, unblinking, never raising a hand. Jason felt her gaze settle on him, not with the cold curiosity of the others, but something more searching, an assessment, a question. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Sirens blared, drowning the auctioneer's patter. The domed ceiling flashed red as masked raiders burst in from every entrance, their armor black and bristling with weaponry. Energy bolts lanced the air, sending spectators shrieking for cover. A guard shoved Jason off the dais. He crashed to the ground, collar sparking with emergency overrides that seared his thoughts with static. Instinct took over. He rolled behind a fallen display, barely missing a sizzling plasma bolt. Raiders swarmed, their voices harsh and guttural. One lunged for Jason, blade raised. With a surge of will, Jason tackled him, wrestling the weapon free, the alien's breath hot against his face. He fired blindly, driving the attackers back, the kick of the alien weapon unfamiliar but manageable. Adrenaline cut through the fog of the sedative. His training sharpened his movements. He scanned the chaos for the blue woman and found her cornered by a monstrous beast. The creature was sleek, panther-like, its hide plated with iridescent armor. 6 insectoid legs ended in wicked sickle claws, and its head was a wedge of bone and glowing, multi-lensed eyes. It snarled, advancing on the blue woman with predatory grace. Jason didn't hesitate. He aimed and fired, energy bolts searing into the beast's flank. It recoiled, shrieking, and he vaulted over shattered crystal, reaching her side. "Are you hurt?" he shouted, offering his hand. She took it, her grip strong. "I am not! Together, now!" They moved as a unit, her strikes fluid and precise, his aim steady. They repelled the raiders, forcing them back with coordinated fury. Her golden eyes flashed with determination, her expression fierce. Around them, order gradually returned. The remaining raiders fled, security systems re-engaged, the tumult receding to ragged silence. Jason found himself standing before her in the aftermath, heart still racing. She was imposing up close, taller than he'd guessed, every inch a warrior. Her presence drew the attention of the auctioneer, who hurried forward, recalculating figures on a glowing tablet. "This human," the blue woman said, voice cool but edged with something warmer, "demonstrates exceptional tactical sense." The auctioneer bobbed his head, inputting new values. Yes, his worth increases. As guards led Jason away, he felt her gaze follow him, a look no longer of mere curiosity, but of genuine interest. For the first time since his capture, hope flickered in his chest. Security intensified. Jason could feel it in every step he took, every watchful gaze that tracked him through gleaming corridors. Hours after the chaos of the raid, he found himself once more at the center of the auction stage. But everything had changed. Where before the atmosphere had been one of curiosity and commerce, now tension hummed in the air, thick as ionized smoke. He was no longer just another lot. Now he was the centerpiece, the prize spectacle beneath a lattice of shifting lights. The auctioneer's voice rang out, amplified for maximum drama. Presented again, the Terran who repelled the raiders, combat instincts, tactical brilliance, true rarity in the flesh. Every word reverberated, drawing the attention of the assembled dignitaries. Rows of alien officials filled the chamber, military representatives from a dozen worlds and alliances, their uniforms a dazzling array of colors and textures, insignias glittering like constellations. Jason's gaze swept the tiers, searching past the rows of reptilian, avian, and insectoid faces. There, high above, in a private balcony, sat the blue-skinned woman. Commander Lyra, though he did not yet know her name. Her golden eyes, steady and luminous, never left him. A silvery advisor hovered at her side, elegant and unreadable. The bidding began high. It soared higher still, the numbers swelling with every round. The auctioneer's melodious patter rose to fever pitch. 100,000 credits from the Caroline warlord, 200 from the Othari regent, 3, 4. The figures blurred in Jason's mind, but he kept his focus steady, looking for any sign from Lyra. In the balcony, the blue woman remained still, a silent storm among her murmuring peers. The silver-skinned advisor leaned in, whispering to her in a language of quick, liquid syllables. Her golden eyes narrowed, assessing the crowd, then flicked back to Jason. Her expression was unreadable, but something in her gaze felt both calculating and fiercely protective. The numbers climbed, 500,000, 750,000, 1,000,000. The crowd murmured, restless. Then Commander Lyra rose to her full height, her voice cutting through the cacophony. 2,000,000, she declared, each syllable crisp and resolute. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. The auctioneer faltered, then recovered, translating the sum into a dozen languages. 2,000,000 from the honored commander of the Delcan Order. A rival bidder, a squat, armored brute with tusks jutting from his lower jaw, bristled and barked, 3,000,000. The crowd surged with excitement, all eyes swinging between the contenders. Lyra's response was unhurried. She lifted one blue hand, her posture regal. 5,000,000. The air went electric. Even the auctioneer stuttered. 5,000,000! Unprecedented! A record for any Terran specimen! Murmurs cascaded through the rows, speculation blooming like wildflowers. Why was this human worth so much? What did the Delcan commander see in him? Jason's attention shifted, drawn by a subtle movement in the shadows below. At the periphery of the crowd, tucked behind a support column, a cloaked figure hovered at the edge of the light. Something about the stance, a familiar tension, the shape of the hand peeking out from the folds of the cloak, sent a jolt through Jason. A scar running across the knuckles caught the light. It was a human hand. Recognition flared in Jason's gut, but before he could process it, the figure melted deeper into shadow, vanishing among the press of bodies and armored guards. The auctioneer called for final offers, his voice trembling. "Is there a challenge? Will any match the commander's bid?" The rival bidders fell silent, some glaring, others calculating. Lyra stepped forward to the edge of her balcony, her golden eyes fixed on the stage. "I offer Vespera 4, she said, and her voice echoed with authority. "An entire mining moon, rich in trithium and crystalline alloys. Deed to be transferred at once." The effect was instantaneous. Silence crashed over the hall. Even the most jaded officials stared, unable to comprehend the scale of the offer. The auctioneer gaped, mouth working soundlessly before he managed. Commander Lyra offers Vespera 4, an entire moon. Is there any challenge? No one spoke. The rival bidders slumped back, some muttering, others shooting venomous glances at Lyra. She met their stares with cool defiance, as if daring them to contest her claim. The auctioneer bowed low, voice cracking. Sold. The Terran is awarded to Commander Lyra of the Delcan Order for Vespera 4, by far the highest price ever recorded. Guards swarmed Jason, but this time their touch was careful, almost reverent. As they led him from the platform, he managed one last look at the shadowed edge of the hall, searching for the cloaked figure. Nothing, just a ripple of movement, a suggestion of presence. His mind churned with possibilities, questions rising like smoke. They marched him through a labyrinth of corridors, the guards' attitudes now altered. Their movements were crisp, deferential. In a small chamber, a technician stripped away his ragged auction garments, replacing them with a sleek charcoal uniform, high-collared, sharply cut, marked subtly with the sigils of the Delcan Order. The material hugged his frame, cool and surprisingly comfortable. Jason caught his reflection in a polished panel. The face that looked back was bruised, eyes shadowed, but the set of his jaw was unchanged. The word asset echoed in his mind, sharp and bitter. Whatever else he was, to these people, he was valuable, perhaps dangerously so. A holographic shimmer filled the air, resolving into the form of the silver-skinned advisor. Lord Sareth's features were refined, almost androgynous, eyes the color of burnished steel. "You will be transported immediately," Sareth intoned, voice measured. "There must be no delay. The Order has invested too much in this acquisition for any mishap." The transmission flickered, then vanished. A pair of Delcan guards, different from the auction house brutes, their armor elegant and gleaming, escorted Jason at a brisk pace. They exchanged glances, clearly wary, but spoke to him with the formal address reserved for someone of high value. He could feel their tension, the way their hands hovered near sidearms, as if unsure whether he was a prize or a threat. They reached the shuttle bay, a cavern of humming energy fields and orderly activity. There, beside a sleek silver craft, stood Commander Lyra. Up close, she was even more striking. Her blue skin gleamed with the soft luster of polished stone, her shock-white hair tumbling in wild, untamed locks over her shoulders. Her uniform was tailored, the cut severe but flattering, and a ceremonial blade hung at her hip. Golden eyes assessed him, sharp and intelligent. She inclined her head. "Jason Hale, I wanted to thank you for your actions during the raid. Your instincts saved more than one life." He met her gaze, measuring the sincerity in her words. "I saw someone in trouble," he replied. "Did what anyone would do." She allowed herself a small, knowing smile. "Not everyone, Jason. Are all Terrans so resourceful?" He hesitated, then gave a crooked grin. "We adapt quickly. Circumstance demands it." She studied him for a moment longer, as if weighing his soul. "We'll see if that adaptability holds under greater pressure. There are many eyes on you now, and some are not so friendly." She gestured to the shuttle. "Come, we must leave before the envoys grow bolder." As they ascended the ramp, Jason glanced back through the shimmering energy fields. Outside, rival envoys gathered, their voices raised in protest and envy. One, a squat gold-plated official, shouted, "You cannot trade a moon for a human! This is a travesty!" Another, draped in crimson silks, spat, "You have upset the balance, Lyra. Remember this." Commander Lyra's stride was unhurried, her head high. She paused at the hatch, turning just enough for her voice to carry. "Today, they learned some things are beyond price." Her tone was icy, final. Inside, the shuttle was all glassy screens and soft blue light. Jason took a seat across from Lyra, the engines already humming beneath them. The craft lifted smoothly, artificial gravity holding him in place as the auction house fell away below, shrinking to a glittering bauble set in the planetary dark. Through the viewport, Jason watched the dome recede, thoughts swirling. What fate awaited him aboard Lyra's flagship? What role would he play in her plans, or in the galaxy's tangled politics? And who was the other human, the ghost with the scarred hand, whose presence felt like both a warning and a promise? He stared into the star-flecked night, his future as uncertain as the constellations spinning outside the shuttle's hull. The flagship Aurora's edge dwarfed anything Jason had ever seen. Even the largest NATO carriers seemed like toys in comparison. The shuttle glided into a cavernous docking bay ablaze with light and motion. Silver-armored Delkin guards formed a precise honor line for Commander Lyra, their posture rigid, their faces masked by mirrored visors. Lyra stepped onto the deck with fluid authority, Jason at her side, every eye tracking them as they passed. They moved through corridors awash in shimmering blue light, the air alive with faint currents of energy. The floors pulsed softly beneath Jason's boots, each step echoing the quiet confidence of advanced civilization. Translucent walls revealed the ship's inner workings, ribbons of data flowing like rivers, and technicians gliding past on anti-grav platforms. Every detail radiated power, efficiency, and a beauty that seemed almost otherworldly. Lyra led Jason to a panoramic lounge, the far wall a seamless expanse of crystal that opened onto the stars. Nebulas blossomed in colors Jason's eyes could barely parse, while distant planets spun in the vast dark. The chamber's furnishings were minimal but luxurious. Low, curved couches and a table that hovered inches off the floor, its surface swirling with shifting constellations. At a gesture, Lyra dismissed her staff. The doors sealed with a hush, leaving only the two of them and the silence of space. The mood shifted. Jason felt the weight of her scrutiny, the mask of command slipping to reveal a woman burdened by more than duty. She spoke without preamble. "You have questions. I will answer some." She circled the room, gaze fixed on the stars, voice low. "My people, Delka, are at a crossroads. Our borders are threatened by the Ralthes Collective. Inside there is dissent. Old families vying for power, soldiers doubting their leaders. For generations, our military strength kept us safe. But that edge fades." Jason watched her, arms folded. "You think I can fix that?" She turned, her golden eyes sharp. "At the auction, you demonstrated something my officers lack: initiative, adaptability. You saw chaos and acted, without waiting for orders or consensus." She smiled, a fleeting curve of her lips. "We train for centuries, perfect our forms. But sometimes, that makes us rigid, predictable." Jason's mouth twitched. "Where I come from, thinking on your feet is survival." Lyra nodded. "That is why I claimed you, at great cost. You will serve as a consultant, advise us, challenge us. What you become here will be shaped by your choices." She crossed to a side panel, pressing her palm to its glowing surface. A new door opened, revealing a suite that surpassed any quarters Jason had known. The space was vast, softly lit, with a bed of cloud-like material, a curved desk, and walls alive with shifting images of Delka's worlds, mountains, oceans, alien cities. The adjoining bath shimmered with mineral pools and sonic cleansing fields. Windows arced across one wall, framing the ever-changing starscape. "This is yours," Lyra said. "It is secure, monitored for your safety and ours. If you desire anything, request it from the interface." She paused, then added more quietly, "You are not a prisoner. Not exactly." Jason stepped inside, letting the door hiss shut behind them. "Earlier, at the auction, I saw someone. A human, cloaked. Who was it?" A flicker of hesitation passed over Lyra's features. She weighed her words, then sidestepped with diplomatic skill. Rest tonight. Orientation begins tomorrow. She met his gaze, a warning or a plea in her eyes. There are more eyes on this ship than you know. With that, she departed, the door sealing with a finality that left Jason alone with his thoughts. He explored the suite, testing every panel and boundary. The security was subtle, but absolute. Force fields humming at the windows, a hidden seam where a surveillance drone nestled in the ceiling. He tried the interface, its soft blue voice responding to every query. The bed was a luxury, the bath an indulgence, but Jason never forgot that this was also a gilded cage. At length, he sank onto the edge of the bed, staring out at the cosmos. Somewhere out there, a mining moon spun, a world traded for his life. He wondered what that meant for him now, what he was becoming in this strange empire. Days passed in a blur of assessments, medical scans, and language uploads that left his mind tingling. He glimpsed Lyra in passing, always surrounded by officers or advisors, her composure unbreakable. Lord Sareth appeared frequently, his manner cool and skeptical, never failing to remind Jason of the enormous investment he represented. On the third morning, Jason was summoned to the training arena, a vast amphitheater of energy shields and shifting terrain. Lord Sareth waited on the observation deck, arms folded, lips pursed in polite doubt. Captain Vex, the feline commander of the guard, strode into the ring. He was tall and broad-shouldered, fur a pattern of silver and charcoal, his eyes slitted in yellow. "The Terran asset," Vex purred, stretching sharp claws. "Let us see what you can do." Jason adopted a loose guard, recalling NATO close-quarters drills. The bell chimed, and Vex lunged, his style a blend of grace and brutality. Jason ducked a swipe, rolled beneath a kick, and countered with a feint that drew a surprised snarl. They circled, Vex growing more aggressive. Jason improvised, using the environment, springing off walls, turning a feint into a grapple, leveraging his smaller size and unpredictable rhythm. Vex's frustration mounted, and he began to miss, claws scraping against the energy field. Lord Sareth leaned forward, watching closely. Above, Jason caught sight of Lyra, alone on the upper gallery, her golden eyes intent and unblinking. Vex finally caught Jason with a glancing blow, knocking him sideways. Jason bounced back, sweeping the feline's legs and pinning him briefly. Vex rolled free, laughing. "You fight like chaos, Terran. I approve." Before Jason could reply, a new figure landed lightly in the ring. Lyra herself, dressed in a sleek combat uniform, her white hair bound back. The arena fell silent. "Enough," she said. "I wish to spar the human." Vex bowed and retreated, eyes gleaming. Jason hesitated. "Commander, Her command brooked no argument. "Show me what you are truly capable of, Jason Hale." He met her gaze. "You want me to go all out?" "Yes, I want truth, not courtesy." They circled, the tension palpable. Lyra moved with measured precision, her style elegant but lethal. Her first strike was a blur. Jason barely deflected, feeling the force reverberate up his arm. He countered, mixing feints with unpredictable angles. Lyra adjusted instantly, reading his intent, pressing the attack. They traded blows, neither yielding. Jason ducked, rolled, caught her wrist, only for Lyra to twist free and send him sprawling. He grinned, exhilarated, wiping blood from his lip. She gave no quarter, but neither did he. Their rhythm synchronized, a dance of challenge and respect. Finally, their faces drew close, breath mingling, eyes locked. For a moment, everything else faded. The arena, the audience, the past and future. There was only the electric current between them, a spark of something neither could name. Lyra's voice was a whisper. "You are full of surprises." Jason's reply was just as soft. "So are you." The moment stretched, charged and fragile. Then, An explosion tore through the ship, the deck shuddering beneath their feet. Alarms wailed, red light flooding the arena. Voices crackled over comms, frantic and sharp. The ship was under attack. The flagship was breached. Sirens screamed through every deck, the hull reverberating with distant detonations. Lyra's security chief, a thick-set Delcan with burnished copper scales, burst into the arena as the dust from the explosion still hung in the air. "Commander, we must evacuate," he barked, voice strained. "The attackers are inside. We cannot hold the main corridors." Lyra's jaw tightened. She turned to Jason, but he was already moving, scanning the exits, calculating options. "We go down," he said, eyes sharp. "Service shafts. There's a route 2 decks below. I saw it on the suite schematics." Lord Sareth, pale and wide-eyed, protested. "Those passages are unshielded, exposed to vacuum in places." Jason ignored him, tugging Lyra and her advisors toward a recessed panel. The security chief opened it with a code, revealing a narrow maintenance shaft barely tall enough for Jason to crawl through. "You trust this Terran?" the chief demanded, casting a doubtful glance at Jason. Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "He's gotten us this far." As they descended into the dim, blue-lit passage, her voice dropped, uncertain. "You are not a prisoner, Jason. Not anymore." Jason glanced back, a lopsided smile breaking through the tension. "That's supposed to make me feel better? Or you?" They moved quickly, crawling and sliding past conduits and sparking panels. The distant rattle of gunfire and muffled shouts chased them through the bowels of the ship. At every intersection, Jason called the shots, doubling back to avoid heat signatures, overriding access panels, ushering the royal party with brisk efficiency. Lyra watched him, torn between gratitude and the uneasy realization that he could disappear at any moment. In a cramped secondary command post, Jason pressed his hands to a glowing interface. Alien glyphs scrolled across the display, but he deciphered them with growing confidence. "Attackers are converging on Sector 18, right above the data vault. That's their target." Sareth stared, incredulous. "You can read our tactical systems?" "I pick things up," Jason replied, eyes still flicking over the display. "They're not after you. They're after something called the Polaris Initiative." Lyra's expression darkened. "That information cannot fall into enemy hands." She snapped a command to her guards. "We move, now." They raced through battered corridors, smoke rolling across the deck plates. The walls bore scorched marks where energy blasts had grazed, and the air reeked of ozone and fear. They ducked past shattered bulkheads, evaded enemy patrols by seconds. Jason's instincts kept them alive, leading them through a maze of maintenance alleys and locked service doors. Lyra fell into step beside him. "You could have escaped by now," she murmured. "We left a shuttle behind 2 junctions ago." Jason shrugged, an easy confidence in his voice. "Better the devil you know." He risked a grin, even as chaos roared around them. They reached the vault, a heavy titanium door studded with biolocks and glyphs. Lyra pressed her palm to the reader, and it hissed open, revealing a cool, sterile chamber lit by icy blue lights. At the center stood a crystalline pedestal, inside which a single data crystal pulsed with inner fire. Lyra faced Jason, the weight of command giving way to something rawer. "You deserve truth. The Polaris Initiative is not a weapon. It is our last hope, a genetic project designed to preserve our people's advantage. But the process is failing. The traits we selected have made us too uniform, too brittle. We need what your kind has, true adaptability." Sareth hovered at her shoulder, torn between outrage and awe. "He was not a random purchase. We have studied Terra for years. Your genome adapts faster, more fluidly than any we have seen." Jason absorbed this, pulse pounding. "So I'm not just a trophy. I'm a fix." He met Lyra's eyes, his own steady. "Why tell me now?" She lifted the data crystal from its cradle, voice barely above a whisper. Because you have earned that much, and because if we fail here, everything is lost. A muffled blast echoed closer, enemy teams breaching the final defenses. Lyra tucked the crystal into a hidden pouch, drawing her ceremonial blade. We go, this way. They plunged back into the smoke-choked corridors. The enemy pressed in, faceless soldiers in iridescent armor firing blindly. Guards fell, one by one, covering Lyra's retreat. Jason fought beside her, using scavenged weapons and raw ingenuity, rerouting blast doors, shorting out enemy comms, dragging wounded Delkins to safety. The world shrank to flashing lights, metal screams, and the pounding of blood in his ears. At the last junction, a plasma charge detonated nearby, throwing them into a maintenance tube. The world spun. Jason shielded Lyra with his body as debris rained down. She gripped his shoulder, her touch steady. We are almost through. They crawled through darkness, emerging at the emergency launch bay. A single shuttle remained, battered but functional. As they boarded, Jason caught a last glimpse of the burning flagship through the viewport. Lyra set the course herself, hands trembling for the first time since he'd met her. They broke for orbit, the shuttle shuddering as it cleared the atmosphere. Jason exhaled, heart pounding, watching the stars wheel past. He realized with a jolt that he was no longer just a rare specimen. He was the key to their survival. The shuttle descended onto a hidden moon base, barely a shadow in the system's outer reaches. Lyra's council assembled in a war room carved from black stone, flickering holomaps outlining enemy movements closing in. Sareth argued for caution, his words clipped and urgent. We cannot proceed without more study. The risks. Lyra cut him off, her voice resonant with command. We have no time. The initiative must proceed now, or there will be nothing left to save. She turned to Jason, her expression open, vulnerable. We must merge your adaptability with our own. The process requires direct neural linkage. It will not be forced. But I ask it of you, for my people. Jason considered, feeling the eyes of the council, the weight of a civilization pressing on his shoulders. No more ownership, he said, voice level. If we do this, it's as partners, equals. Otherwise, find another way. For a moment, silence held. Then Lyra stepped forward, her three-fingered hand reaching for his. Agreed, Jason. Partnership. I trust you. As they prepared for the procedure, lights dimmed, cables uncoiling, technicians murmuring in the background, Jason met her gaze. In the current between them was not just trust, but something deeper, a sense that together they might become something neither world had ever seen. The synchronization chamber glowed with pulsing energy, crystal pylons arrayed in a circle, each humming with contained power. Jason stood with Lyra at the threshold, both surrounded by technicians in dark uniforms. Above, the ceiling arched like a crystalline dome, refracting the pale blue light into shifting patterns. The air vibrated with anticipation and the faint, ozone-rich scent of imminent change. 2 tables stood side by side within the ring. Jason and Lyra lay back, wrists and temples gently cradled by articulated supports. Between them shimmered a translucent field, alive with swirling motes of light. Lyra's voice, barely above a whisper, reached him through the haze. Absolute honesty is required, she said. Any deception will break the link. You must show me everything, and I will do the same. Jason studied her face, the angle of her jaw, the steady gold of her gaze. I understand. No masks. He tried to sound calm, but the enormity of what was about to happen left his pulse hammering. A technician touched the interface. At once, the field intensified, threads of energy weaving around Jason's body, prickling along his skin. He felt Lyra's presence, not just near, but inside, brushing against the edges of his mind. Alien, yes, but not wholly unfamiliar. There was curiosity there, and something deeper. The chamber seemed to dissolve. Jason tumbled through flashes of memory, the echo of a soccer ball against pavement, the sharp snap of a drill sergeant's voice, laughter in the rain, the taste of fear on a battlefield. Then, Lyra's memories washed through him, vivid as if they were his own. Her first day as commander, the weight of the command insignia in her palm, the cold dread of losing a soldier, the endless scrutiny of advisors and rivals. Jason felt her resolve and her loneliness, the fire that drove her forward despite the cost. Genetic code unfolded, shimmering in the shared space. Strands of human and Delcan DNA danced, twining and splitting, data and instinct flowing in both directions. Jason sensed her initial calculation, how she'd seen him as a tool, a means to an end. But he also felt the shift, the slow emergence of respect, the careful bloom of affection. It pulsed through the link like a heartbeat. He opened himself in turn, letting her see his doubts, his longing for home, his fierce loyalty, and his refusal to break. He felt her awe as she traced the wild adaptability written into his genes, the spark that had allowed humanity to survive its own chaos. Lyra's thought whispered through him, clear as a bell. "Now I see why you were worth a moon." Jason's response formed without words, his admiration surfacing. "Now I know why your people follow you. You never give up." The connection tightened, mental and emotional currents surging between them. Barriers fell away. For a moment there was no separation, only the dizzying rush of two souls laid bare, the heat of shared memories, the ache and the hope. It was more intimate than any physical touch, a union of trust and identity. Then, a shadow flickered at the edge of their combined awareness, a pattern of thought out of place. They both focused, following the thread. Images surfaced. Sareth, his mind sharp and cold, fingers moving over a hidden transmitter. Secret messages, coordinates, fleet movements, sabotage instructions, spilled out, the truth impossible to hide within the link. Sareth's face twisted in guilt and calculation. Betrayal blazed like a wound. The link severed with a rush, energy fields fading. Jason and Lyra bolted upright, breaths ragged. Blue traceries, faintly glowing, spiderwebbed Jason's skin from collarbone to wrist. His senses burned. He could hear the technician's heartbeat, see the microfractures in the crystal pylons. Lyra's golden eyes glowed brighter than ever, her posture charged with renewed strength. Alarms blared outside the chamber. Lyra's hand found Jason's, fingers strong and steady. "Sareth, he betrayed us. We end this now." They swept into the council chamber, the door hissing open. Sareth stood before the holomap, feigning focus as enemy fleet signals converged on the moon. When he saw them, saw Jason's eyes, Lyra's power, he drew a concealed weapon, hand shaking. "You cannot stop what has begun," Sareth snarled, voice breaking. "You're too late. They will crush us, and you—" Jason moved before the words finished. His new reflexes were almost uncanny. He closed the distance, disarming Sareth with a single fluid motion, pinning him to the table. Lyra called for guards, who arrived and restrained the traitor as he thrashed and cursed. Lyra addressed the council, her voice ringing. "The enemy is at our gates, but we are not broken. We are more than we were yesterday. Prepare the defenses. The initiative is secure." The council members bowed, energized by her presence, some casting wary glances at Jason. Later, in the quiet of her private chambers, Lyra faced Jason alone. The city below the moon base gleamed through a wide viewport, enemy ships hovering beyond the shields. Lyra's tone was solemn but warm. "Your status as property is revoked. As of this moment, you are chief advisor to the Delcan Order, with full rights and privileges. Vespera 4 is declared neutral ground, a bridge between Terra and my people." Jason let the words settle in. "So it's official. No more callers, no more auctions. She extended her hand, palm open, the gesture formal in Delcan custom, but her eyes gentle. This time, as an equal, partners. He took her hand, their fingers entwining, a promise, and something more. The touch was not just political, it was personal, forged in crisis and trust. They stood together, watching the stars, as the future unfolded, side by side. The sanctuary held. Enemy warships battered the shields with waves of particle fire, but the moon base, its defenses strengthened by the Polaris Initiative, stood fast. Within command, Lyra and Jason worked side by side, voices threading together in rapid, confident cadence. Every console glowed with alien symbols, the chamber pulsed with tension and the adrenaline of survival. Jason felt the difference in himself with every passing moment. His thoughts raced along new pathways, clarity and speed blending in an exhilarating flow. Tactics that once would have taken him minutes now crystallized in seconds. Shift shield harmonics by 2 degrees. Channel reactor surge to the dorsal batteries, he called out, fingers dancing over controls. The Delcan officers obeyed without hesitation, recognizing his authority not just by Lyra's decree, but by results. Beside him, Lyra's golden eyes gleamed with heightened awareness. Her movements were fluid, her mind more flexible than ever. She anticipated Jason's suggestions, sometimes even voicing them in unison. Enemy drop pods, Sector 7, 3rd level, she snapped. Intercept with auxiliary drones. Her tone held the calm certainty of a commander who had not only regained her edge, but evolved it. Their minds, still faintly linked by the Polaris Initiative, brushed together in silent bursts of intuition. Jason would catch glimpses of Lyra's plans, and she, in turn, felt the surge of his determination, a resonance that made every decision feel shared. The enemy pressed hard, launching wave after wave. The sanctuary's defenders bent but did not break. Jason watched patterns unfold on the tactical displays, the blue traceries on his hands glowing brighter with every breakthrough. Deploy reserves to the western breach, delay, then counterattack. They're about to overextend, he said, and even as the words left his lips, Lyra echoed his strategy, amplifying it for the council. The tide shifted. The attackers found themselves cut off, their command ships isolated. Lyra's forces struck back with relentless precision, exploiting every hesitation. Within hours, the enemy withdrew, ships vanishing into the dark beyond the system. Victory, hard-earned and total. As the last alarms faded, calm returned to the sanctuary. Relief mingled with exhaustion, the battered defenders exchanging weary smiles and respectful bows. The command staff looked to Jason and Lyra with newfound reverence, no longer seeing a captive human or a desperate commander, but partners whose unity had saved them all. Later, as the corridors quieted and the stars wheeled outside, Jason and Lyra slipped away to the observation deck. The space was vast and dim, bathed in soft sapphire light. The transparent walls revealed the universe in all its impossible beauty, a sprawl of nebulae and starfields, one of which Jason now knew was Vespera 4, traded for his life, and now transformed into a bridge between worlds. Lyra settled onto a curved bench, her posture finally relaxing. Her powerful frame, always so poised in battle, softened as she leaned back, exhaling slowly. She patted the seat beside her, and Jason joined her, close enough to feel the warmth of her skin. Her 3-fingered hand found his, resting atop it, her thumb tracing the faint blue traceries that marked him now. The silence was comfortable, filled with the unspoken knowledge of what they'd survived. After a moment, Lyra broke it, her voice gentle and reflective. "This galaxy is not kind to the weak, Jason. For too long, I believed survival meant standing alone, building walls. You taught me that true strength is found in trust." Jason glanced at her, his mouth curving into a small smile. "Trust is a risk. You took a bigger one than most. You gambled a moon on a stranger." She met his gaze, her golden eyes soft. Not a stranger now. Not ever again. They sat quietly for a time, watching the stars drift. Jason flexed his hand, studying the new traceries, lines of blue that pulsed with subtle energy beneath the skin. It's strange, he said, half to himself. I thought I'd feel less myself. But this, he gestured to his hands, his body. It fits. I'm still me, just more. Lyra's grip tightened. You are more. And so am I. She hesitated, vulnerability flickering across her face. The initiative changed me. I can feel your adaptability in my decisions, your instinct to improvise, to hope. I never want to lose that. Jason turned, meeting her eyes fully. You won't. Not as long as we face things together. She smiled, genuine and unguarded. You sound certain. He shrugged, a playful spark in his eyes. Adaptability, remember? They laughed softly, the sound echoing into the starlit hush. Lyra's arm slipped around his shoulders, drawing him closer. Her blue skin was cool at first touch, then warmed as he leaned into her. She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, her other hand finding the line of his jaw. Her lips found his, gentle at first, testing, then deepening as trust and longing surged between them. The kiss was more than physical. Even as their bodies pressed together, Jason felt the mental echo of their earlier synchronization, a rush of feeling, memory, and hope entwined. Lyra's thoughts touched his, gratitude, admiration, a fierce protectiveness. He responded in kind, letting her sense his awe, his affection, the relief of belonging. When they parted, breath mingling, Lyra rested her forehead against his. This bond, this partnership, it's more than politics, more than strategy. It's ours alone. Jason nodded, emotion thickening his voice. We built it together. No council, no war, no law can take that. They remained entwined, gazing out at the endless galaxy. Lyra spoke quietly. Terra will come to the stars one day. When it does, it will find an ally here, a friend, not a conqueror. I promise you that. Jason squeezed her hand, the new blue traceries glowing faintly between their joined fingers. I believe you, and if your people ever need reminding of what humanity can do, I'll be there. Lyra laughed, musical and fierce. They will never forget. You're legend already. They sat in silence, drawing strength from each other. There would be challenges ahead, rebuilding shattered defenses, forging new alliances, facing threats old and new. But Jason and Lyra, soldier and commander, human and Delkin, now stood side by side, more together than alone. Outside, the galaxy turned, stars glittering with promise. Jason leaned into Lyra's embrace, feeling the steady thrum of her heart through her chest. He knew that whatever awaited them, be it danger, hope, or the unknown, they would meet it as partners, united by the price of a moon and the promise of something greater, love, and a future for both their peoples. This brings our story to a close. Don't forget to hit subscribe, give the video a like, and share in the comments which part you enjoyed the most. Our team will truly appreciate your support. There are plenty more exciting stories waiting for you on our channel. See you in the next video.